Today we have Zachary Foust. Properly, that's how you say it? Okay. So
Correct.
Zachary Foust, he is someone I watch a lot on Instagram specifically. Talks a lot about the economy, how we got here, where we are, and where we're going. I really enjoy the great detail and attention to data and numbers rather than opinions with the straight up manner that he uses in every video to get the point across. I also learned Zachary is a real estate professional, making the passion behind talking about the housing market even more riveting, and I'm very happy to have you here, Zach. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Wealth in Public.
Dude, thank you for the intro. I'm humbled. Thank you for having this space set up.
Oh, no problem. Well, thank you for joining me. I know we had a little bit of scheduling difficulties. We were playing schedule tag, but it's all good.
100%. It's all good.
So appreciate you being here. So to get started, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about. I wanted you to introduce yourself a little bit with just who is Zachary Foust, and yeah.
I'm a Milford Delawarean who has sold homes since now beginning of 2017. Before that, I was a prison guard. Before that, I was in the military, Army. I joined the National Guard, but ended up doing 4.5 years active contracts, and one of those years was Afghanistan. And it was my first real thrust into any type of leadership or communication or working with others. And I think I really needed that, as much as it wasn't amazing. The structure with my ADHD brain, they needed to collide a bit more. And through there, I got to see some pretty whack leadership, but that led me into trying to find something out of law enforcement, and that's where it landed in real estate. I got my license back in early 2017, and now I'm more focused on the class of Americans that are seeing the brunt of the wealth hoarding and are being minimalized economically for the sake of a billionaire's bank account or will and testament one day. It sucks because, as a real estate agent, you almost feel like a part of the problem. When you feel at the numbers and see, 1/3 of all home buyers this last year are investors, right? There's an agent in between that too. That probably sent them the email or got them on the list or set up his search online, right? And it's no one person's fault, but the system as a whole has marginalized those that don't hold assets. And like you said, I just like to call a spade a spade.
Well, I greatly appreciate what you're doing, and that actually leads me kind of into my next question is, what exactly is it that you do now? And, well, you told us since 2017, but how long have you been doing it? And I would also like you to talk a little bit about why you started making content around what you make content around and what it is you make content around.
Right. I
know it's
have
a loaded
conversations
question
with my wife around what genre am I right now. It's like, she landed actually on the word, the phrasing of just, I'm kind of an economic journalist. It's, a little bit of history mixed in with what's going on in the current day. Some call it pattern recognition. I don't know. Sometimes I talk and I get to the end of a video, and honestly, I'll be real with you, brother. I get to the end of it and I'm like, did God just talk to me? Like, I don't talk like that. Like it sometimes feels like it's literally a different type character. Like some people, it's a flow state, but I literally think that in asking of God, about 2.5, 3 years ago, because you asked about my starting point, right?
Yeah.
It was really like early 2023, late 2022. I refound God, and I don't mean that in a corny way. In more saying, I found it in the way that I think it was supposed to be presented, that I'd been priorly lied to about. See, I was raised Christian, but I didn't realize I was being raised in a Christian nationalist type society. I was being raised in an area that was very, fundamentalist. And I refound the structure of what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are actually talking about. And the character of Jesus, we can debate that left, right, up, down, don't matter. the lifestyle in which he lived is not the lifestyle of which the Christian leaders of today actually abide by. Right.
Absolutely.
We're not given to the poor. We're not fixing the inherent systematic hatred that exists between whether it be race, gender. The inequality is insane, from wealth to jobs all the way down. And when we look at what's happening right now with this wealth gap acceleration in front of us through stock buybacks from billionaire companies to sending our own money we have earned overseas, or you dream up anything that we could have done poorly with our money, from this usury model to consistent quantitative easing and money printing. You pick which one you'd like to discuss. There's so many things lined up to benefit the upper class and marginalize us. And that's exactly who Christ fought against, were people like that. And I want to model what I believe that WWJD bracelet, right? The what
Absolutely.
would Jesus do type bracelet, right? What would he do? What would he be up to today? And I don't know if he's going to be making Instagram videos. I think he'd be doing something much more important, but I think he'd be on a similar pathway of pointing a similar finger at similar people. And I believe that mass awareness is if that's the tool that I have in place for his design or whatever, what I can do, I'll do that. But like I said, I had no intentions of being where I'm at right now. It wasn't written on some goal board somewhere.
Well, I would definitely say you are doing the Lord's work, because just when I watch your content and I think about how it's impacted me personally, it's like, well, it inspired me to start this podcast, inspired me to be a little more financially literate. And I think that's something that kind of goes over people's head too, is like, there's nothing in the Bible that says like God wants us to be poor. Like, right. He wants us to be educated. He wants us to know what's going on, and he wants the people, his people, to help educate each other and help make each other better people. Iron sharpens iron. But so I would say you're doing the Lord's work just from just listening and watching you, because you teach me things. Christ taught us things. He taught us how to be better people. And yeah, I don't know, Jesus might be doing a lot more important things than us if he was here with us today, but
I don't know what he'd be up to, man.
Yeah, I was like,
he might be at a Cavs game. I don't know.
It's like he might be doing more, extravagant things than us, but I still think like I don't know. I can't explain like how much I appreciate your content and what you do, because there's a lot that inspires me, and just in watching it and wanting to be more literate and just more things than just stocks and investing. Because yeah, like I'm growing my investment account, but it's also like I'm seeing where investing for larger, like people that have large amounts of money, it's like, well, you can use this as a weapon against people like me who are just like, hey, I'm not trying to be 100 billionaire, but I'm also trying to be well off. And it's like I see where people in my class are kind of like, we're being used as collateral to make them even more rich, and then we're giving them their money.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it's really the discussion of the haves versus the have-nots, man. It's a tale as old as time. It's not new, but it's also something we know historically has caused revolution, social, violent, everything in between. And what we've also seen on an American level is, if we were to go back to the civil rights movement and the actually, let's move past that to the Vietnam protest. We have an operation by Hoover. It's called Operation Chaos, where they take these peaceful protesters, right? And this is a pattern old as time. You get social revolt that you need to weaponize against, but you, by law, have to allow peaceful protest. Not a good look to get in the way of that. You saw with Nepal. There was a peaceful protest. They pushed past the line, clocked one kid in the head, and all of a sudden 1 million people showed up at the state building, right? You can't go against the peaceful protest. So what they did is they just sent the FBI and his private members of this protest peaceful, and then incited riots and threw the flames and got everybody incited, gang effect type stuff. And
Absolutely.
boom, now you have a reason to arrest people. And we've been doing that now, not even just with our own people. We've done it to whole daggone countries at this point. And they do it live on news and tell us it's about oil. And it's like, all right, come on. Like, if we're gonna be the world supervillain, can we at least also be at the supervillain table? Can we all be treated like adults here? We're clearly the bully. We clearly have been the nemesis of the other country. No one talks nicely of us. It always used to be like, oh, they hate your freedom. The French, they hate your freedom. And then you grow up and you're like, oh, wait, the French are free? It's just a little dirty. Oh, okay. Oh, Sweden is too. Wait, there's like 30 plus other countries that are almost everyone's free. Wait, what? Like you learn China's more or less a communist. It's more like a democratic socialist type deal. Like people can own homes and cars. And it's like, what? You tie all the patterns of consistent and constant lies to propagandize the older white male of specific religions to own and operate everything from the top down. And you're just a gadget, a cog in that system. And you want to be a bigger cog so that you don't have to have smaller cog problems, but you're always going to be a cog. And I guess at one point I just realized I was a big enough cog, and I wanted to give off resources. And I think there's a point. I think there's levels in everybody's development where they hit a checkpoint or they get near the finish line, and they, instead of celebrating the moment internally or with others or talking about it, they turn around. They've had enough of the recognition. They've had enough of the attention. They've had enough of the outside external things in life. And they just turn around and help get other people to where they're at. They're like, because I can honestly say the level of peace I have in my life right now, I want to grab people by the head and be able to get them to the point of peace I have. And the amount of peace I have is through Christ. Because with the amount of stuff that my head in is in all the time, and the articles I'm reading and the deep diving I'm doing, I realize where I'm living. I'm not stupid. I realize we're all born on a Monopoly board. But at the same exact time, I have enough proof in my life to understand we're in an energetic space. And our conscious is created from right here. Like our thoughts, our feelings, everything that's good or bad in our life starts internal. And I think if consciously we could all understand what we're looking at, go back inside, get back life, get that zest back for life again, I think a lot of good could be done. But it starts with awareness, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, that answers my third question greatly, actually, because
damn dog, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, you're totally fine, because you answered two questions in one. We got a twofer. It's all good. The third question was like, what kind of brought you here to the point today? Is there anything else that you would like to share on that? Anything else? Any other thoughts that you have on what?
Sure, man. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You're getting this podcast started, and the setup looks like you've been doing this for years, by the way. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And that TV, too, you can have that thing on when you can be searching stuff up, man.
Yeah, we're going to incorporate this in a little bit. That's the beauty of podcasting, man. It's just every episode, you optimize something new, you upgrade something new, you realize you got that weird word or that stutter, or you do something weird with your eyes. But the more you get into it, the more I'm pumped for you. But thank you.
To the potential content creator, yeah, no problem, brother. Easy. I'll speak to maybe a content creator out there, because I do believe that's an incredible potential side hustle. Especially if you're at a point where, again, you think you're at a level in life where you can turn around, because there's no better eon in life to be able to turn around and produce mass awareness around something than right now. Absolutely. And the biggest thing is standing out. And I was tired of standing out. And so I started just kind of standing in, if that's a better definition. And I got one of my older ones right here. up to number 4 in the past couple of years, just started these notebooks and taking notes on everything and journaling and outlining what I was about to say in my content, what I was about to talk about. And that was a habit that bled down from me being in sales. And I would pre-prepare my scripts, right? And even when I did content around a listing video, or, you know, I would take down all the details of the homes and how I wanted to say it and emphasize this. Like, I got really into it. I enjoy the kind of the art of bringing your true self onto camera. I think we're all kind of mastering that a little bit at a time, being more ourselves with the world. And there's a deeper spiritual level to that too, but just on camera, like the dynamics of when you can tell something's off and trying to correct it. I enjoyed. So what I would say is preparation. We're how do I explain this? Without being super nihilistic, we're walking into a world very soon where we're not going to know what's real, what's not. And I don't think it's very far from around the corner. That is going to make being a content creator harder, especially a new one. Because if you're not currently a recognizable face, you're running into the finish line of becoming a trusted newer face. I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to know. They're not going to know. And it's not going to be anybody's fault except for just AI. Like everyone's just paranoid at that point. And I can't stress enough that if you want to go down this route, prepare. Because one thing you can do is do, sound like a robot there, real preparation. And that's why I've carried that journal. I don't even show it in the video. And like, I didn't even know what I was doing at first, kind of subconsciously with the person on the other side, but I was proving to the listener that I took the time to prepare for you. And here in this next 5 minutes, you're going to hear what I spent the last 2.5 hours researching, or 2 weeks deep diving, or, you know, what I've learned over the last 4 years of researching this. I'm going to culminate for you in 3 minutes. That's one of the most incredible things about social media today, is we get to hear these 3-minute bites, 5-minute bites of just years worth of value. And if you have that level of value to bring to the world, start to turn around at the finish line and just show it. I think people are desperate for depth. And if you offer that, that would be the advice I would give, is prepare heavy. Whiteboards, journals, getting your brain straight type deal.
I got you.
I don't know what I'm saying.
No, you're good. I see you got the whiteboard on your content recently when we were talking about.
Yes, we got a whiteboard, baby.
It's like,
we had it at my old office, and I missed it so much. Mainly because it just brings out the teacher vibe in me, brother. I love it. I love being on my feet. I love having my little. I got a pointer now, bro. I got a point. I'm gonna be unstoppable, brother. I'm gonna be at Madison Square Garden, brother, with my whiteboard. I love it, dude. And it's just another great way to culminate. Like, my brain has 32 tabs open at all times, bro. It's taken me like 4 years to try to culminate what is all these different pieces of information into. It's hard. It's hard, but yeah, man. I'm going off on a tangent. The whiteboard is fire.
You are totally good. Yeah, I love to see the whiteboard, because I was like, oh yeah, he's about to drop some knowledge on us now, for real. And speaking of the knowledge, before we get into the nitty gritty, there is one question that, you know, actually I want to start incorporating with my guests, and it's asking, how are you doing emotionally, mentally, with all this stuff going on? The world is going crazy right now, especially like our world here in the United States is like, we're going through a whole lot. A lot of things are changing. So how are you doing mentally, emotionally, spiritually in this situation, before we get to the nitty gritty?
Dude, good question. I love that you're gonna ask that. I'm good. I've gotten to a place where I'm very comfortable with my past and my present, and I understand a bit more about who I was as a kid and what I am versus what I was told I was. And I've surrendered more to life. Life is more than a physical being. I'm more than a physical being, and I'm a spiritual entity having a physical experience, not the other way around. So I'm just doing my best with what I have, and what I have is one of the best families I could have. I have one of the best, just all around, man, from when I was born to the dumb mistakes I made, not hurting me too heavy, to luckily being in the right situations for certain type investments or business. You know, I think a lot of people around me say, "Oh, you're being modest," but it's like really like a lot of it's luck, and I count myself real lucky from even just being born when I was born. So I'm very content. I'm very content, and I want more people to be able to get to that point where they're not chasing happiness anymore. And get more into, you just gotta be content, man. There's nothing better than being content.
I love to hear that. I'm actually in a place, well, I think I'm coming out of the place, but I was in a place of like feeling like I was a failure and feeling like I failed, because just like looking at my past, like, well, one, my little sister, she owns her home now. She has a condo, but she's a homeowner. My brother lives on his own, and then I'm like, here I am living with my grandma. And it's like, well, yeah, but like, yeah, just hearing you and like being able to chat with you today and continuing to do this podcast has made me like want to continue. And like, yeah, things aren't, you know, the extremely best, but they could be significantly worse. And then, you know, I'm going to definitely be able to say when my grandma passes, like, well, no, I lived with her. Like, I spent a lot of time with her every day. So that's also going to be a great thing. So thank you again for joining me, and thank you for lifting my spirits. Hearing that definitely lifted my spirits a lot. So yeah,
Well,
I appreciate it. But now,
appreciate you, brother.
now that we got out of the introductions and everything, we're gonna get to the nitty gritty. Hopefully you can drop some knowledge on us today. Feel free to share as much as you want. Like, you can go on a tangent if you want. You can share as little or as much as you want. But
Sure.
My first question is, what is the current state of our economy, and why, from your perspective?
We're overinflated from a constant need from our government to overspend in comparison to what we produce on an annual basis. And our debt is nowhere in any shape or form going to be paid off. And investors are starting to sniff this out more and more. So those foreign investors in our bonds are beginning to dry up. This is signaled in many different ways. One being that the Cayman Islands is the number one holder of our debt currently at $1.8 trillion, nearly double the one in second. We're seeing it in yields, mortgage rates, car rates. That's all based off the 10-year Treasury yield, and it's because other countries are calling us out on our shit, man. And we're seeing it constantly with the bully type antics. We just played around with Greenland, even toying with the words of militant force, having to calm it down at Davos, but even toying around with it. Like, we toy around with tariffs as an economic weapon. We're toying around with consistent and constant proxy wars all across the globe. And it's like, when are we really going to have a term where a president focuses on us? I don't think it's coming. I think billionaires are in charge. I think blackmail has people rocked. And I think that the end goal of the current leadership is a technocratic, authoritarian style economy. And the evidence from things like the BBB favoring corporate tax versus personal, meaning the business got a bigger cut than you. And that's just a mathematical fact. I see it argued all the time. It's not. The tariff is a personal tax. Recent studies showing 96% of the brunt of the tariff has been bore by the consumer. It's reported by multiple outlets, middle, left, and right. And inflation, being told it's dead when it's clear and obviously alive and beating. And they're looking to kick the very man that's fighting it, Jerome Powell, though I don't like him as well. But at least he's standing up to the inflation at the Federal Reserve. And then they're about to introduce Rick Ryder, potentially the BlackRock CIO, as the new chair. So if I was to give a sentiment of today's economy, it's not great. And I don't think it's getting better. I don't want to be like dark, but I also don't want to lie. I truly think that if you don't hold an asset, your life is going to look a lot different in 10 years than someone who does.
And that actually rolls me into my next question. So, like, as a U.S. citizen, like, what U.S. citizen, small investor, real estate investor, just someone who's in the middle class, like, what am I not paying attention to? Or what am I not seeing that these billionaires are seeing, that these people in power and control that they're seeing? Like, yeah.
I would say the move for power, and not like physical leadership power. I mean, like actual electric. Power right now has been the biggest shift for a company like BlackRock, private equity, Larry Fink. They've made a strong shift in the past few years since COVID to invest more in infrastructure. The Panama Canals were a good example. Then we see them investing like in Virginia in energy plants, and in Australia, data centers. And it's clear and obvious that now we're seeing the billionaire tilt toward places like Greenland, because where better to have a really hot data center than in the cool of Greenland? Where better to get those minerals from for our country? It's a win-win. And then we, the China-Russia thing, whatever. But they want to also build these freedom cities. And I think the whole end game that nobody's seeing right now is the people who have the power to try to be clear about it. And we're trying to be as nuclear as we can. Even in Delaware, where I live, they're looking at a nuclear facility. I know Texas, they're looking at one too. We're way behind in solar and wind compared to China. And they know that they can utilize things like that to have forms of power. And I think that billionaires just want to run this shit. I to be real with you, I don't really have a good firm answer for you on that. I'm wandering around in my senses, but there's so much that I would want people to know that I couldn't summarize it in a 2-minute answer, and that shows on me that I should probably have a better one.
Oh no, you're totally fine. That really answers the question for me. So it's like cool. There's just a lot that I've been paying attention to, and power is one of those things. Is like electric, solar, nuclear, all those different things has been a huge thing. Like, I even follow Earn Your Leisure. Like, Troy, he's been like, hey, power is the next, like, you guys want to know what the next thing is? Power is the next thing. Like, there's not just one company going after what power, like, and not, physical leadership power. It's like electric, solar, nuclear. Like, these companies know that when these data centers and things come online in a few years, it's like, our current grid can't.
Delaware's already, so Delaware turned down like a $500 million something project for solar a couple of years ago. And now with these data centers around the corner, now they're entertaining a 1.3 gigawatt plant off our coast. And now it's being reconsidered because they're like data centers.
Yep. And that kind of rolls me into another question, is like this Greenland thing. It's recently popped up a lot. This Greenland, this Venezuelan oil, and all those different things, like these things have popped up. Let's start with what is going on with Greenland? Why, from your perspective, like why do we want, a heavier presence, for lack of better words, in Greenland?
We want to lock Greenland into a scenario where we do not have to use any type of military threat, but economic threats are enough to have a stranglehold on the usage of the land for precious minerals, I think some oil, but mainly for a corporate nation known as a freedom city. Are you familiar with a freedom city?
I am not.
Okay, so freedom cities were initially presented by Donald Trump in Agenda 47. In Agenda 47, he laid out 20 core promises, and one of them was to create freedom cities. And freedom cities are corporate towns like post-World War II. And these corporate towns are set up as such: low business tax, low regulations, low red tape, and you're basically able to get so many breaks on your taxes and the initial costs and the fees and the permits and everything that goes into the infrastructure that you can offer a lower price to the consumer. But similar to like how an HOA would work to say that you can buy this house, but you got to keep the grass to a certain length. They could say you can live here, but you got to work for Oracle. Oh, no. Okay, got you. You work for us. So it's like this corporate town vibe. So they want to build these freedom cities, which is kind of like a corporate town hybrid with what they're looking to put in Gaza. These super AI tech cities, which are 100% happening in Gaza. It's a plan. It's called the Great Plan. We saw it back in September, talked about where they're rehabilitating where this genocide happened with luxury hotels and beachfront property. It's sick. And that's the type model that they want to bring to these freedom cities in America. And Greenland is one of the targets that Pronomos Capital and which one first? Ronald Lauder, Praxis, Peter Thiel, Dave Andreessen, all these individuals, and the original one was Ronald Lauder, who had the idea, who gave it to Trump in 2019. Ron Lauder gives the idea, we should go to Greenland. Nothing happens. He's out of office. 2025 arrives. He's elected. Then, in April, Ron Lauder goes and opens up an LLC in Delaware for Greenlandic Water Bank. Or Greenlandic Development Partners, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. He then does nothing with it. And the Greenland topic kind of goes away. I kind of wondered why it wasn't circulating anymore, right? Like, hey, I'm going to get cameras into the Fort Knox Bank and we'll look at the gold. That kind of disappeared, right? Mm-hmm. And when they don't talk about it, people don't talk about it. So why did they start talking about it back in November, December? We need Greenland. Maybe it's because we got this ambassador, Ken Howry, into office. He's the ambassador to Denmark, and he's one of Musk's and Peter Thiel's best boys, PayPal founders with him. Oh. And guess who owns Greenland? Denmark. So having the ambassador now set, Ron Lauder goes and uses that LLC to invest in the Greenlandic Water Bank. And then they pardon Juan Orlando Hernandez, who created the framework in Prospera, Honduras, for the very first freedom city, Prospera LLC, formed in 2017. But then in 2022, they say no more to this Z thing, no more to this Prospera. Honduras said no. Prospera sues Honduras for $10.8 billion. The country's worth $36 billion, basically a third of their worth. At least 25%, 20%. I don't know. I'm not good at math. And so now we see the Juan Orlando Hernandez in 2025, December, last month, gets pardoned. Why? Oh, I don't know. Speculating. He created the framework for the Freedom City. And now they're going to bring it to Greenland. They're going to get it up and rocking. And by the end of his 4-year term, there will be builds started on freedom cities. And I think if the plan orchestrates as such, J.D. Vance will be able to pick up the slack for the next 8 years and make it a reality.
Now, you talked about Zeeds and Juan Orlando Hernandez and Venezuela recently in one of your reels.
Honduras.
Honduras.
Yeah, Honduras.
And Honduras. And when you brought the whiteboard out for the first time. So tell us a little bit about these Zeeds. Can you kind of, I guess, in that reel, can you kind of summarize what you spoke on about, these Zeeds, Juan Orlando Hernandez, different things like that?
So Juan Orlando Hernandez was a part of the administration of the governor before him. Yeah. I'm sorry, I said governor. I knew I did. President before him. And they formed the administration's legislation around what was known as a RED. And it was for basically economic development. They said, we're going to create jobs. There's going to be a lot of build out. And we're going to create these beautiful cities. It passed initially. And then the Supreme Court judges met and 4-1 voted no to the RED. Man, I'm on one today. No to the RED. I'll tell you what, this cold is wrecking me right now. I don't know if you can see it in my face, but this cold weather is got me snotty and I
Although
hate it.
dude, you're good. Trust me. I had pneumonia and the flu. Like,
Ooh, why am I complaining? My goodness.
I feel you.
I shouldn't be complaining. Thanks for getting me back to earth. All right, let's keep going. So the red gets denied by these judges. And so guess what happens? The judges get replaced. All 4 of them. Go home. Get out of here. At some 2 a.m. vote to get these guys out of here. 4 more come in. They passed what's known as the ZEED, which is the red. Same thing.
Yep.
Just different name. Sounds a little bit more clever. They passed the ZEED. Then by 2017, Juan Orlando Hernandez goes out to Roatan Island. Just deep, jungly. You got to take a boat to get out to it. It's really far out in the ocean. Island, kind of desolate. And then within a couple months comes back. So yeah, Prospera LLC partners with this guy named Eric Breimer. Eric Breimer is basing the whole project off of Israel because they're the quote unquote greatest startup nation. And they're being funded by all these Zionist billionaires organizations as well through Pronomos Capital. Pronomos Capital funds Prospera LLC, and Pronomos Capital is funded by Peter Thiel, Dave Andreessen, advisor to Donald J. Trump.
Coincidence?
Coincidence? I don't know, man. There's a lot of coincidences, man. Things are weird.
Yeah, things are definitely getting weird. And speaking of weird, there's another big topic. Venezuela, this oil, our trade deficit all of a sudden dropping so dramatically. What exactly is going on with us in Venezuela, and what's going on with this oil situation, this trade deficit? Like, what? I hear that, but it's
that's a lot of questions.
It's like I hear it, and feel free to break that down as best as possible. But yeah,
so oil, Venezuela, trade deficit.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think a lot of Venezuela had to do with oil. I think a lot of it had to do with oil. I think the most cockamamie conspiracy theory that I've heard is the thought process that we actually kidnapped him as a prearranged deal to get him and his wife out of a town that wanted to run him out of town already. And in exchange, we were going to take over the oil. That was the price of his life. That's the craziest one I've heard. The most, the storyline is, I think it's 8 like Mega Man looking soldiers with crazy sound devices were managed to kidnap 2 people in the middle of the night. While it's not having to hurt anybody, which is crazy to hear that we have that type of technology. But who knows? At the end of the day, we know some facts. We know that the crime rate from Venezuelans is severely low. It's very, very low. The crime rate amongst Venezuelan gangs is very, very low and oftentimes not violent. And then we can look at the drugs. Well, the drugs were cocaine, and most of their cocaine went to the EU. And the cocaine that did make its way to us, it wasn't killing people. It pales in comparison to the fentanyl that we get from Mexico. So the excuses around why we were going all the way around the board, even to oil, because they create this heavy oil that comes out more like a molasses type. And though we have the refineries in the southern regions to support it, to get their refineries up and running, like the infrastructure is going to take, there's some of those billionaire gas companies are already like, I don't know, reportedly. So it's not a short-term project. It's not going to create oil next year, not by a chance. It's like more of a 5 to 7 year project from the people that I've read that are smarter on the oil thing.
Yep. Well, the world. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on.
Okay, so next thing I heard about after we did this whole Venezuelan thing is our trade deficit has dropped. So what exactly is a trade deficit, and how does it work that it dropped so drastically recently?
Yeah, we have less imports. That's right now what it is. There's less being taken in. And the reason for that is a lot of the imports that we spiked in over the beginning 2 quarters of the year or so was companies trying to avoid the tariff. And so they over imported, right? And now we're seeing on the back end, I believe, a combination of they already stockpiled a little bit. People are buying a little bit less. And that's combining into we're ordering less. And that's a large reason why also our GDP went up. I believe was it 5.2%? I think it was 4.6 and then 5.2. A lot of that has to do with our healthcare spend and the lack of imports. And it's strange that the number would go up, but it's like a ratio. So you got to know a little bit. You don't have to know everything. I sure as hell don't know everything. But you got to know a few of the basic gears of finance, which is why everybody could go take like an economy 101 class, by the way, online, to just understand we're under the thumb. And when it comes to the trade deficit, it's way over reported on. It's because we are actually in a surplus when it comes to services, and we have been for years. We're a service-based economy. We don't have as much manufacturing, right?
Absolutely.
We don't produce as many goods. Yeah, like financial consult, we're the best. So it's more about the debt and the money printing and the senseless government spend. And those are the numbers that don't get focused enough.
Yeah. And speaking about government spend, let's come back to America. You actually have a Trump tracker that
Yes.
I've been following, and it basically has explained exactly all the promises that were made upon him going into office and how true those things are. So can you tell us a little bit about the Trump tracker and how it's doing?
Right. Well, for one, it's doing neutrally negative. Not super down in comparison to when he started his term, but definitely not better. All right. Inflation is still very present. The cost of goods for a grocery cart is still very high, usually about 4 to 5% higher than the beginning of his term. Home prices, new constructions drop due to oversupply. Resale stays high. A new construction first-timer home right now is about $340,000 to $360,000. And at today's rate, you need to make about $100K to qualify for that, for the first-timer type home. The indexes we're tracking for our home crash index still put us very far from a home crash because simply there's not enough supply. And to the people say, well, homes are sitting. That can be true at the same time. There's very low demand met with very low supply. And if the demand were to pick up because of lower rates, we'd still be in the same position. We need more regular everyday people that want to sell their homes. And right now it's mostly new construction, and that document lays that out. The other side of that tracker is the economic tracker, the affordability index. And the affordability index right now sits at about an 83. We're adding this into the website version that we're going to be making of this. I've had a couple really cool people hit me up about this to help develop it. So the affordability index takes into consideration the normal lifestyle of a new family. So we incorporate, a medium mortgage on that starter home at today's rates, 2 used cars, gas in the car, insurance for the car, power for the home, food, phone, taxes, Social Security, the basics, okay? I think I threw in that one of them had some student loan debt, right? Just normal stuff. Someone's got to have a degree. And take the expenses of that for that year, and we've done this all the way back to 1989 now. The expenses of that lifestyle for that year versus that year's median income for that household. And this number at 100 basically means the numbers are the same. Oh, it costs 35 grand. Oh, you made 35 grand. Got it. If the number goes below 100, that means it's slightly more expensive than what the typical person's making. Goes slightly above, the opposite. Goes way above, like we saw in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 2020, 2021, 2022. The cost of this lifestyle was significantly less expensive than what the median household was making. We're talking years where people were making 70 grand almost. But the cost of getting by as a young family is about 46. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. But that number right now sits at, like I said, 83, which is significantly below that 100 number. So that's one that I continue to keep an eye on as really the anchor of what would make this economy feel better.
Okay. And speaking on that, the affordability of homes, and I'm going to make sure I'm keeping you on time here. We got about 15 minutes, so I probably got like one or two questions
good,
left
brother.
for you. With the housing economy and housing being it feels so unaffordable right now. And you've actually spoken a lot about how we got here and what factors brought us here since, I believe it was since the 2008 housing crisis, even a little bit, even long before that. So kind of how did we get to this unaffordability position of buying a house? And like, why is it that, the average American can't really, well, I'm not going to say can't, but why does it feel so much harder to buy a house than it did in the past?
Right. Three reasons we will go through on this one to try to break this down. So 2008 is, like you alluded to, really where the starting line is. Then we have the rate side, and then we have the inflation. So in 2008, we decided to, instead of allowing our market to properly correct, to print money. We printed money through the Federal Reserve, through quantitative easing. We also bailed out banks, but that was legislative. That's Occupy Wall Street, TARP. Different. Now, we did that two more times until about 2014, buying bonds. Why is this important? Because the bond is how we get our mortgage rate. And the only way that we could get our bond yields to a low enough number that would satisfy the market, we had to buy our own supply. And so quantitative easing, by definition, is when we print money to go and buy bonds. They'll also buy mortgage securities, which also could be, some argue, is a deeper effect on mortgage rates. But think about it, when you remove supply from any market, there's less of something, it's worth more. And so when there's less bonds on the free market, they're worth more. And when they're worth more, the yield goes down. When the yield goes down, that means that 10-year treasury bond's gone down. That means mortgage rates have gone down. So the only way that you saw, and you did see from 2020, 2021, 2022, those low rates, it's because we had just bought trillions of dollars in long-term bonds. And so COVID triggered that action. But what it also triggered is a side effect of QE. Now, these rates had been low, but now they're so much higher. Why? Because the bond investor absolutely hates, cannot have inflation. Every percent of inflation is a percent less on his ROI. So he's going to track inflation like a hawk. And when we do inflationary things, they demand more. When there's more going on in the war front, they want more. When there's instability in the government, when our debt is out of control, when decisions are haphazard, when we're smacking countries in the face from tariffs, when we're threatening wars, we're basically telling all these investors they need a higher yield. And that higher yield equals your higher mortgage rate. So that's why rates can't come down unless we print money. And there comes the inflation. The reason it's inflating is because of the money printing. And the only way we get lower rates is if we print money. So do I think that home prices will come down and simultaneously rates will ever be lower? No. And if they were, the unemployment rate is 20+%, and we're having other conversations. So I do not have a light at the end of the tunnel, honestly, for housing, other than if you're on the fence about buying, do it if you can afford the mortgage twice.
Well, good to know that. And that brings me into, I think we can end on this one is, what action steps do you think average people should be taking to get in a better position for what's coming in the future, because I don't see us doing better in the near future, but I do think that there are some things that we can be putting ourselves in position for to, I would say, make the brunt of the hit not so devastational to the average person, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Restate your question for me one more time.
What
Make sure I get it.
what should, in your opinion, the average person be focusing on and putting their efforts towards to help them put themselves in a good position for the future?
Knowing what we know now.
Knowing what we know now, yeah.
Right. And I'm not a financial advisor in any way, but I mean the number one thing I've stressed on is that spiritual, mental, physical well-being over everything. Real
Absolutely.
wealth is satisfaction and fulfillment in life, the ability to give and grow. On the financial end, if you believe the dollar is going to continue to weaken, hold silver. If you believe that the economy as we know it is going to just topple in on itself, hold physical gold and silver. If you believe that crypto is the next big answer, it's definitely going to be one of the main coins we know now, throw money in Bitcoin. I don't have a direct answer other than hold assets, whether it's a stock index, housing, it could be your IRA, could be a vintage game of 2K. Pick your poison. Something's going to hold wealth and inflate with the economy because the inflation's coming.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much what Wealth in Public is about. Like I'm sharing, how I'm building wealth and how I'm going about it. And my biggest thing is hold assets. If you have assets, right, if things get more expensive, the value of those assets come up. So
very true.
Things aren't going to get better, but things will get more expensive. So have some things that hold value and you'll be all right. Make sure you're spiritually taken care of, because that's really what's going to make you all right. Because, you're not going to get anything else from the world we live in. Just make sure you're taking care of yourself spiritually, mentally, and physically, and you'll be fine. Last thing is there anything else you'd like to share? Any words of wisdom, anything like that before we get out of here?
I think you put together a great show, man.
Thank you.
I encourage you to remain consistent in it and to create like a kid and edit like a scientist and prepare as hard as you can like it's a test in 5th grade. I mean, you have a great voice, you're inquisitive, and I think anybody listening to you is on a good path.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll keep it going.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's all I got for you. I wanted to keep you...
Yeah, my fam just walked in, too, so we're ending on a great note.
Well, perfect. Yeah, I want to make sure we're staying on time. That's one thing I'm going to make sure we do with Wealth in Public. Keep my guests on time. But thank you for joining me, and I appreciate you being here.
Appreciate you, brother. We'll talk soon.